to talk about tonight, a little bit different probably from some of the really meaty philosophical conversations you've been having today, and talk about connectivity and cultural heritage. How CyArk is working to enable access to humanity's rich legacy. Just a little bit about who we are. So CyArk is a nonprofit organization. We're based here in the Bay Area, and we're committed to empowering connections to historic sites. Although the newest sphere is 100 years old, CyArk is a mere 20. We were founded in 2003 by Ben and Barbara Kasira. And we were one of the pioneers in the application of 3D recording technologies for the preservation and celebration of cultural heritage. A big part of our mission is about connecting new audiences to these sites, and as Sheila mentioned, lifting up new voices as we understand these places. And the underlying technology that we continue to use has evolved over the 20 years as technology does. And as that has evolved, I think our mission has really expanded, allowing us to do new things that were not possible 20 years ago. So a big focus now is around unlocking the data that we have in our archives and the data that we continue to collect to help maximize the full potential. So I do want to talk a little bit about the why, and I'll talk more about our organization, but I also want to talk about our history. But a big part of our why, why does CyArk exist, is that we want a lot of the cultural heritage helps define who we are as people. They're connections that we have to these places and to each other. But oftentimes some of these places actually remain out of reach for a large portion of the population. And so part of our mission is by creating more equitable and respectful access to places through digital technologies. We're not only trying to lift up new voices, but really increase that shared understanding of our past. How did this all get started? I'm going to let Ben tell you himself, but I'm not going to force him up on stage here. I want to play a little bit of a video of Ben kind of introducing how CyArk got started. He's the history of our organization, so I'm gonna let you hear it from him directly. So.
I was born in what today is Mosul, Iraq, but was Nineveh in those days, the capital of the Assyrian Empire. I remember my dad used to take me by the hand to go out on weekends and go visit the winged bulls which guarded the gates of Nineveh. I was maybe 6, 7 years old, and those memories have continued to be with me over the years. What inspired my wife, Barbara, and I to get started on what today is CyArk was the events that took place around 2000 when CyArk Technology Company had been acquired. And right about then, the Bamiyan Buddhas were destroyed in Afghanistan. I mean, they were just gone. The world lost them forever. We felt that we needed to do something to get the technology we had developed as part of CyArk Technologies into the hands of preservationists to digitally preserve World Heritage Sites.
So that gives you a little bit of the history of our organization. When Ben and Barbara first started, it was really this concept of creating an archive of this information. Because the technology that existed at that point, not everyone could use, and the access to it was quite difficult. And in the 20 years since, thankfully, that technology has evolved, and we're able to do a lot more with it. So today, what we focus on is storytelling, using that data to actually help connect people into these sites. We still do a large amount of this documentation work and train others to do it. And then we really believe in providing open access to all the materials that we create. So we have a whole site dedicated to open access of this 3D data called openheritage3d.org. And there's close to 500 sites up there today for researchers and educators to have access to. In terms of our history, since founding, we've trained, this number is probably out of date now. It's probably closer to about 2,000 at the end of this year. People trained. We've worked in over 40 countries, documented well over 200 heritage sites. And then we've developed nearly 100 of these experiences with huge numbers in terms of the virtual visitors engaging with this content. So I want to show a little bit about what this technology is, just to give you an idea. I'll play this quick video and talk over it a bit. So this is just from an example project in Mexico City, but just so you can see some of the technology. This is the LiDAR machine that actually Ben helped develop the original version of this. And we moved this around the site to capture three-dimensional views, capture these cloud of points. And then we supplement that with a process known as photogrammetry, which is taking lots of individual overlapping images to create a 3D information from those two-dimensional images. And we do that from the ground, and then we also do that from the air using drones. All those data inputs are brought into a computer program where they're aligned. So the LiDAR and the photogrammetry, and they're fused together to create a highly realistic and highly accurate model of a place. So this is the photoreal model. You can then do things like slice through it, and also bring it out into architectural programs to help with conservation issues. So this underlying 3D data is part of every project that we do. I know you all are here because of the 100th anniversary of the noosphere, and wanted to say, well, how does that connect into what we're doing? And I think Sheila put it nicely of kind of a manifestation of this in practice, and it's all kind of points of connection. And so our philosophy is about how these places are central to how people understand themselves and the world, and we do what we call spatial storytelling. It's our approach to creating experience that immerse the visitors in the stories of a place. And so our goals with this are about creating that emotional connection between people and places, and that through that we want to broaden people's perspective of the world and their place in it. We want to be able to create empathy for people today and in the past. And of course, we also want to encourage that respectful engagement with the world. So we do work on monumental structures that are on the World Heritage List, but we also do work on sacred places as well. And so making sure that we're creating access to these places in a way that is meaningful for those who are the most closely connected to them, but also respectful, and helps again create that experience for others, even if it's virtual. So a big part of that, when we think about the way that we're approaching storytelling, is we call it the 3 Ps. So people, presence, and perspective. How can we pull these things in to try to change the way that people connect with these locations and the people there? And that's helping both on this natural and the human characteristics of a place. So people, we want to put people first in the narrative. Not just the history of this site, who are the people that are part of that story? How do we create a sense of presence? Everything we do is in a digital and virtual environment. So how can we still create that presence of being there? And then really importantly, how can we incorporate multiple perspectives? So there's not just a single view of this place that people are getting. And a big part of that is our online storytelling platform called Tapestry. So it's a web and mobile enabled platform, and I'll show some examples of it, where we integrate that 3D modeling, but alongside the narratives and people and perspectives that makes these places so special. So I'll show just a little bit of what Tapestry looks like, and then I'll show a couple of examples of some of the work. So I wanted to just show a couple of projects that kind of highlight some of this from our perspective, and again, highlight this like human connection and where we're all headed. So one of the projects that we've had the opportunity to do over the last few years is this project we call the Journey to Equal Rights. And so this is all about sites that have been instrumental in having equal rights for all. So women's suffrage, the civil rights movement, gay rights movement. The places where these happen are really important for understanding, and connecting with these stories. And so we did a project that looked at, we now have 7 of them in there, but it started with 5. And I'll play just a short video about, what these places are and how they're important for our journey as humanity in terms of improving things for everyone.
The Declaration of Independence was not a complete document. It did not prohibit slavery. It did not say that all men and women are created equal. What came out of Seneca Falls was this effort to combat those injustices, and the buildings that house these people and these ideas continue to resonate with people today. They remind us that the power of a few people to change the world is still there.
When people come here, it's almost like they want to experience where Dr. King, where he walked. I mean, think about it. This is actually where he walked. This is actually where he worshiped. This is actually where he worked. This is actually where he was born. Everything is right here in his community.
I mean, this is the place where Pride began. It sparked a revolution in terms of LGBTQ rights around the world.
Cesar Chavez National Monument is a national park site that commemorates Cesar Chavez and tells a story about the United Farm Workers Movement.
U.S. Immigration Station, such great opportunity here to talk about our past, but also give folks a chance to think about what's going on today in contemporary immigration and hopefully start some conversations.
These resources will help people understand and appreciate some of the pivotal moments in our history where people did extraordinary things. It is our hope that this will inspire others to know that they too can make an impact.
So the impact of this type of work, right? I think, when we're thinking about connecting to people, what does that mean? If people aren't accessing it, it doesn't matter as much. And so we have 7 of these tapestry experiences available on our website. We have 30 companion lesson plans as well. And I know the education's a big focus for Human Energy as well. And being able to connect the next generation to these sites is critical. And so just, a few comments from teachers, the power of being able to put people in these places and what that means for their students. Really incredible to be able to take things out of just a concept and out of a textbook and put it in practice for these students being able to go there. So just, one of the projects that I think that we're excited about in terms of this kind of overlap with the noosphere. Another one, so going from journey rights to sacred places. So this one has been one that we've worked on over the last 18 months or so, working with the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. So it's the largest children's museum in the country, and they're they saw a similar need to say, how can we promote greater understanding of world religions to help foster a sense of community and understanding. And so we worked with them on 6 different locations around the world to not only go there and record the stories of the place, but also connect with the communities to create an exhibition that's now in the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, but they also have an online component that's being used by students and teachers to bring these concepts into the classroom. So by being able to see young people in these spaces and hear their stories, it's a way for people to connect in to, something really foreign to them, right? There's probably people that have never heard of these other religions or don't know individuals. And so this is a way to connect people through that. So I'll show another. So our team, traveled to locations around the world, capturing everything from kind of rituals to performances that all went into this physical exhibition on site. But then up there you see they have an online exhibition as well, so that you can virtually visit all of these places and hear from those same community members, even if you don't make it to the live exhibition. And it is something that is, they're going to be traveling it. So if there's university folks here that are interested in this concept, I think they are still looking for partners that are interested in maybe hosting this traveling exhibition. But I'll just play a quick video just about, so you can see some of the content from it. I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions. I know it's a tight timeline and you all have been listening during dinner, but I wanted to just share a few ways of how we're connecting people into these places. And I think there are a lot of parallels to the conversations that you're having. So we'd be happy to take any questions from anyone about any of it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's a very beautiful and I think precious work that you guys are doing. And I'm very grateful that you presented today. I am Shima Beji and I'm working with human energy as a researcher. So during your presentation, I was thinking how this technology can be used in resolving some of the most complex conflicts that we are facing, for example, in the world, that are so difficult to pinpoint them exactly because there's so much emotional, I think, charge. So it's so difficult to really, I think, physically touch those spaces. So I was wondering how this technology, how this spatial storytelling can be used in resolving complex conflicts that we are right now witnessing around the world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great question. I think that, we see cultural heritage ends up being on the forefront of some of that. So some of the work that I didn't talk about, we just had a team come back from Poland working with Ukrainian professionals. And there in that war, culture has become a big factor. And so there's not only the threat to the cultural heritage there, but changing histories and so it is something that is critical, I think, when there is conflict. And so we've also seen it be used though as a tool to bring communities together. So we're going to be doing a workshop this next year in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where it's a very tenuous piece in that country, and part of the project is to bring people from different communities together to find commonality in that shared heritage. So I think that there are opportunities to do that, and I think, again, focusing on those people and multiple perspectives is one way to do that. It's not going to solve all the conflicts, but I think if you can connect with a person and you can understand a little bit about their worldview and where they're coming from, it does at least open up a conversation.
Says, 3 days ago, I was personally in the Muir Woods, which I have constantly gravitated to as a sense of inspiration for myself, as have many other indigenous peoples and others. And I saw one of your quotes, there was a park ranger involved. I'm just wondering, what is the spectrum of your engagement with place? Does it have to be built environment, or will you go into sacred places in which it's basically going into nature?
Yeah, that's a great question. The technology that we use, the kind of 3D capture, does work very well on the built environment, but we have done a number of projects where the landscape is part of that. Because often, the story, we're becoming much more story driven rather than just place driven. And so I think, there as again, the technology is evolving. There's lots of new ways to create this kind of 3D environment. And as that has evolved, that's allowed us to expand. So we did a project dealing with Big Basin Redwoods Park actually after the fire. It was a couple years ago, and it damaged the historic structure, but it also damaged some of the most famous trees. And so, using the same technology, and again, working with like park rangers and members of the indigenous community to get, again, those multiple perspectives in. There is a tour on our site of redwoods where you can actually see the trees, you can see the damage, and then you can hear from a park ranger and someone from the Amamutsun tribe. Yeah.
How easy do you make it for the public to download the original full scan files?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Yeah. So on our website, it's CyArk.org, it's focused more on the experience. But I mentioned there's another site, and it's linked on our website, called Open Heritage 3D. And that's where there's nearly 500 data sets from CyArk and as well as other contributors. And there, all that's required, you can go to each individual project, you can see what files are available, how large they are, and as long as you commit to use them on the terms that are listed there, they're all licensed via Creative Commons. You commit to those terms, and then you get a link to download.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for the great work that you're doing. I lived in New Mexico for a while, and having had the good fortune of being invited to some of the dances and the ceremonies, I still remember the very strong interdictions that the native cultures had against photography. And these were places of tremendous value. I mean, I consider myself fortunate to have been present. So I wish that upon all peoples of the earth should be able to witness this. But the local culture simply does not allow photography. Yeah. And so, to a degree, the reconstructions that you produce, the digital reproductions, rely on exactly the things that are interdicted by the local culture. And I don't think this is just unique to Native American, to the Pueblo cultures in New Mexico. I think this is probably true for a lot of cultures around the world. So where do you stand on this?
Yeah,
perhaps it's too much of a sort of a complicated question.
No, it is and it isn't. I think we work with a number of those communities. I don't know which community you were in, but we have partnerships with a lot of Pueblo communities at this point. We have an ongoing project with the Hopi Nation, and then as well as Zuni and Ute, and so. I think there's a lot of that is all again about like respectful engagement and understanding their perspective. And so, many of the sites that we have worked on are sites that are on public lands now. So we have not done any projects that are on the Pueblos themselves today. They're National Park Service sites. They're managed by the Bureau for Land Management. And that's again in consultation with the tribes, where those sites are already available to the public. And so they're invested in working with us because they can help tell the story that they want to tell, that they're comfortable sharing with outsiders, to try to, again, foster that respectful visitation. Because these are, even though they're in public land, they're still very much sacred places for them. And so they do want to share that perspective of that this is a sacred place and you should be visiting with respect. And there's no way to really understand that unless you again connect with somebody, right, and hear that story. And so but those partnerships have taken a really long time to build up, right? We've been working with the Hopi, I think, for about 10 years. And it takes time. You've got to really understand that perspective. And lots of conversations about what's appropriate and what isn't. And at the end of the day, if it's not appropriate, it's not going to go in this public thing. That's the way that we operate. So
thank you.
Yeah.